She brought a bit of kind of English class to the picture. I mean, that was one of the things I was very pleased about with the picture, was that Paramount allowed me to cast, you know, a cast that was drawn from around the world. You know, there wasn't an insistence that everyone had to do an American accent. They were fine that Sam Neill's character came from New Zealand, that Fishburne came from America, that Jolie came from England, and everyone could have their little flags on their arm. I mean, and that, I think, gave the movie a flavour that it wouldn't have had otherwise.
Richard Jones, again, extremely handsome, compelling person to watch. You know, he'd not done much outside of America, so I think it was a real adventure for him to come to England. And, you know, the trouble with you have these ensemble casts is they all get their moments, but at the end of the day, it's Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, and it's difficult when you're, you know, to make yourselves presence, to hold your own. But I think Richard really managed it very well, even though his part wasn't as big as perhaps we would have liked it. He did the same with Sean Pertwee, you know, or Jason Isaacs. They each had their individual characteristics.
Richard T. Jones was a lot of fun to work with. I think this was the first time he'd really been outside of America and like done a big studio movie, and he was just so overexcited every single day on set. I actually ran into his wife about 6 months ago at an airport, and she came up to me screaming, and she said, you know, Richard and I talk about that movie, it's his favorite movie ever. And they just got married at the time, and they got to come and live in London for 6 months. I mean, he was a cool guy to work with. He didn't like being in the wire rigs. That's my memory of Richard, though. Fishburne was fine about it, but Richard just didn't. He didn't like hanging around in those wire rigs.
Richard T. was he was just this larger-than-life person who came over to London to just suck us all dry of life. He had such a good time when he was here. I can't remember a time when he wasn't laughing. And then he improvised, it seemed to me, all of his lines. He was constantly saying things you think, where the hell did he get? And just because he was so ebullient, in fact, that's what he ends up being in the film. I don't think that was on the page like that. And he was embarrassingly good looking as well. There was something rather, you know, he was a statuesque, beautiful man. I couldn't bear to look at him.
Jack, he was like the mascot of the film, you know, this sweet guy, but great actor. You know, he'd just come off, I think, Breakdown, and again, he'd done a lot of drama, but not a movie like this, but he completely embraced it. He was really like the kind of darling of the cast.
Jack was a lot of fun to work with. He really, he was a good sport, you know, because we did some terrible things to him. You know, we hung him upside down, we stuck blood tubes, you know, around his eyes. He had so much screaming and shouting to do. You know, for all the fact that he's, you know, a bit of an icon in horror films because of his performance in Event Horizon, the guy has the most amazing singing voice and actually started out like in musical theatre. So I remember I had my birthday during the shoot, and he sung this song at my birthday. It was just fantastic. He has an amazing voice. Someone should make a musical with him. Event Horizon, the musical.
Mr. Isaacs, who has done virtually every film we've made, you know, scary. He just became a very scary doctor on the ship. And some of the stuff that we had to cut was his stuff. I mean, we built this huge prosthetic of him, and he's skinned alive, and he's hanging from the ceiling in the medical center of the ship, and he's basically dead, but he lifts his head up and he speaks. And Jason just loved all this gory stuff. I mean, he really embraced it and had a great time. And I love the scene where he, where they got the recording and they're trying to work out what it is. And of course, Jason says, "Oh, it's in Latin."
Sounds like liberate me something. I don't know. I can't make out the rest. Liberate me. Save me.
Which is a little bit of an on-the-nose beat, but he does it so well, you know, we get away with it. He's great. We love him.
I know Paul and Jeremy from a long time ago, the director and producer, and Jeremy Bolt and I were at university together, and when I was doing a play, I was doing Angels in America at the National Theatre, and he came to me and said, "I want you to meet a friend of mine who's directing a film. You haven't got any time to be in it, so all we can do is get you half a day, like 3 or 4 lines." And I said, "Well, I don't want to be snobby, but I think I should be, playing bigger parts than that. He said, he's a really great guy, you'll like him. And it was shopping, and the director was Paul. And we hit it off, and next time he made a movie, he came to me and asked me to be in it.
Jason and I became good friends on this movie, and we've pretty much worked together ever since. He's appeared in nearly all of my movies in one form or another, sometimes as like an uncredited cameo. Very serious. I had to persuade him to do the movie. He didn't immediately jump at the idea. I thought he brought an awful lot to his character. There wasn't an awful lot on the page, and he definitely brought a lot. A lot of the character traits and quirks are all Jason's invention.
When I first read the script, I think I had the same reaction that most people have when they read horror film scripts, which is, I don't really get it. And it was only Paul explaining his vision to me that made it come to life, because you don't jump when you read something on a page, and you don't get a feeling of dread, and all those things come from storytelling. And more than most genres, I think, a horror film, science fiction horror film like this is in the director's hands. So I read it and thought, I wonder what the hell this is going to be like.
Shit, do you understand? It's just a big hunk of metal. There's nothing odd going on.
DJ?
Well, I was playing a doctor, and my brother's doctor. And he's this very, professionally, he's this very grim man, very taciturn. And people are always leaning forward to hear what the hell he's talking about. And so, because DJ didn't say very much, I thought I'd be this incredibly serious or grave personality. And that worked, because then Lawrence started flipping off me and making jokes about, he kind of made fun of me as soon as I introduced myself, and did it other times. But it made me also, I felt like I was maybe the rock that people came to confess. So basically I played my brother. The other thing I wanted to do was have gadgets. Since I was in a science fiction film, and maybe I wouldn't be in another one, I wanted to have things about me, and I always fancied when I was a kid having a bat utility belt. And so I asked Paul if I could have a utility waistcoat, and I got this coat with billions of strange-looking implements in them. God only knows what they were meant to do, and I tried to use them in various scenes, but mostly they look rather cool. I hope. I thought so anyway.
If you watch the movie, he's got so many props, knives and belts and things and because he really got into that. And then about halfway through the movie, when he's realizing it's one thing to get all these props, but then you have to deal with them all the way through the film, he's like, Paul, why did you allow me to have all these fucking props? I've got all these things, syringes, and so that became the bane of his life, is how to deal with all of this stuff.
Paul's an incredibly collaborative guy, and he threw it open to all of us. I mean, it became much more like doing a play, really, because we went to the same set every day for a very long time, which you don't normally do on movies, because there were no locations, there were no extras ever in space. Nobody wanders by the window outside. We became a very tight ensemble company, and we all made contributions all the time. Mostly we made contributions to our own characters, but sometimes you make suggestions for other people, and Paul was always up for it. For instance, one of the things that we all did was come up with a kind of background and history for our characters, so they seemed like they had a full life. And I was very aware that in the story, a number of the characters have, not flashbacks, have kind of nightmare visions of whatever this ship that's been to hell does to them, and I wasn't going to get one. So I wondered, maybe they happened, but they didn't happen on screen. And for me, DJ had a vision of getting his chest ripped open because he had an operation when he was a kid. And so I gave myself a huge scar from neck to navel, and we put it on every morning. It took forever, and I don't think the audience ever got it or saw it, but I was rubbing it often in the scenes. And sure enough, when he meets his fate, DJ, he gets split open.
Sean Pertwee had the most amazing haircut done for this movie. He had his hair bleached, cut about that short, and then just bleached bottle blonde, and it was like shocking platinum blonde. It's fantastic. He looked so over the top, and he came in and he said, "What do you think of the hair for the movie, Paul?" And I just looked at him, I was shocked, and he went, "Okay, I understand." And then when he came back, like half a day later, he'd had it all shaved off, and that's where his look came from. And for me, I think it's his finest performance that I've seen him deliver. I mean, he was really damn good in the movie.
Sean, who did shopping with us. He's a real lad. He's a real friend. He was like the sexy, young, fun guy. He brought in some humour. He had a great time. I mean, Sean, who loves movies like this and loves video games and loves gadgets, he was just constantly playing on the set. It was He was great.
Sean Pertwee and I go back to when we were teenagers, and it was just so lovely to work with him again. I've done it 3 times now, all in Paul Anderson's films. The first one was in Shopping, where I went and did just a few hours on the set really to meet Paul, but it was with Sean, who I'd known since he was at the Bristol Old Vic and I was at university there. And I remember getting there and going, well, what should we do about this? And he lifted up the script, threw it away. He said, no, it's Paul. It's all right, we can do whatever we like. And we basically improvised the whole scene. And he hasn't changed since we were 18, actually, 19, not at all. I guess we probably look older, but I look at him, he doesn't look any older to me. It was really lovely to be people you hang around with, to go to work with them as well makes it a bonus, because you don't have to start getting funny about your territory.